Today, I'm going to talk about UX design process, step by step, with practical example, which will help you understand the process better. If you search for UX design process on YouTube, you will get hundreds of different videos, but none of these videos explain the end-to-end process. And that's where I saw an opportunity to create this video, which will explain the process from the initial idea to the actual delivery of the idea. And therefore, I call this the ultimate UX design process. It is a 9-step process which starts with an idea and ends with the launch of the idea. Actually, there is one bonus step. This bonus step is the most critical one. Without this step, the entire process will fail and also loses the characteristics of design process. So stay tuned to know about this bonus step. UX design process is one of the crucial topic of discussion in any UX design interview for aspirant as well as for experienced UX designers. I have seen many aspirants, even experienced designers, struggle to answer this simple question. So in this video, I have covered everything you will need to know about UX design process so that you can answer questions confidently in your interview. Okay, enough selling the importance of UX design process. Let's jump into the process. Step 1, idea. The process starts with an idea. Think this process as a car and the idea as the fuel. Without the fuel, the car cannot start, right? And likewise, without the idea, the process cannot start. An idea can come from anywhere, from the CEO, from the product manager, or from the customer support team, or from any department. Now, please focus here. Whenever we talk about ideas, we always think about the solution. But the idea can also be the problem without any solution yet. Example, Wright brothers, who invented the airplanes, didn't knew the solution. What they knew was the problem, how human can fly. And that became the idea which invented the airplanes, the solution. Let me give you an example in terms of UX or product. The analytical data shows that the users are dropping at certain stage while signing up for the services. Now this is a problem which needs a solution. This can act as an idea to initiate the UX design process. Please remember this example, drop in sign up process, because I'm going to use this as an example for every steps going forward. Step 2, research. Now that we have found the problem or the solution in the form of idea in step number 1, we need to start digging deeper into it. And the process of digging deeper is called research, or also known as user research. This is also the lengthiest step of this video, but it is also the most important one. Research is broadly divided into 2 categories. Primary research, where we conduct the research, and secondary research, where we utilize the research done by other researchers. Example of this is buying research reports from research companies such as Gartner, Forrester, etc. These are further divided into 2 subcategories, qualitative research and quantitative research. We conduct qualitative research when we wanted to understand the why behind the user behaviors, such as why did the user click on option A versus option number B. Some of the methods we use for qualitative research are user interview, focus group, card sorting, and usability testing. We conduct quantitative research when we want to quantify the user behaviors, such as what percentage of users click on option A versus option B. Some of the methods we use for quantitative research are web analytics and surveys. Okay, that's it for the theory part. Let's do some practical now. Remember the example? There was a drop in sign up, and currently we don't have any information about it. And research will help us find the root cause of it. Let's understand how to practically do a research taking the case of our example. Researchers follow a 7-step process to come to a conclusion. Step 1, identification of problem. The first step is to identify the problem. In our example, it is a drop in sign up journey. Step 2, formulation of hypothesis. Here, the researcher formulates the hypothesis as to what might be the reason that causes the problem. For our example, the hypothesis can be 1. There might be some technical bugs. 2. The users are not able to understand the copy. 3. The journey is broken. 4. The forms are not intuitive. 5. There might be information overload. The idea here is to create as many hypotheses as possible. Let's move to the next step. Step 3. Formulation of research plan. Once you have listed down all the hypotheses, the next step is to create a plan to validate the hypothesis created in earlier step. Here, the researcher creates a detailed plan which include what research method to use, how to identify and recruit research participant, date and time of the research, what will be the overall estimate cost of the research, etc. For our example, here is how I will make the plan. There are 5 hypotheses which we have identified in our previous steps. And the method required to validate hypothesis number 1 is technical debugging session. Hypothesis 2 to 5 will require usability testing. Just to reiterate, we are trying to find the root cause of the problem here. We are not finding the solution at this stage. Alright, so once the methods are decided, we will need to plan to recruit the participant and accordingly send the invite for the usability testing. Step 4. Conduct the research. In this stage, we execute the plan we have made in step number 3. That is, we conduct the research. For our example, we will initiate the technical debugging session as well as conduct the usability testing with our participants. And we will capture both quantitative data such as success rate, error rate, completion time, as well as qualitative data such as satisfaction metrics. Step 5. Data analysis and interpretation. In this stage, we analyze and interpret the data we collected while conducting the research in step number 4. For our example, we conducted the debugging session and the usability testing in step number 4. The data we collected will be analyzed in this step. All the data points such as what percentage of users are able to complete the sign up process, what are the error rate and why does those errors happen, how much time it took to complete the process and what are the satisfaction rate. Step 6. Drawing conclusion. Once we have the data and the analysis, we draw a conclusion as to what is the reason for the drop as per the research. For our example, let's assume that the error rate was high in password field where the user enter their password to create the account. When the researcher asked the users why did they drop, they said it's too complicated to create a password and therefore they were dropping. When the researcher dig deeper, they found that the product has a strict password policy where it is mandatory to have a 12-digit alphanumeric number, 1 capital, 1 small letter text, no sequential number as well as alphabets are allowed, and that was too much criteria for the users to fulfill. Step 7. Reporting. The last step of the research process is to prepare a report of the finding. This is a crucial step because you will have to present the pain points the users are going through to all the stakeholders. Alright, so with that, we have completed the most lengthiest yet the most important step of the process. That is the research. Again, this is just the tip of an iceberg on research. Just the overview because user research can be a course by itself. It is that vast. If you want a complete video on user research, please say yes, user research in the comment. Let's move forward and get back to our UX design process. We just completed step number 2 and our next step is step 3, define. With the solid research in step number 2 and an in-depth understanding of the problem, step 3 is to articulate the problem in a format that every stakeholders can understand. The goal here is to write the problem statement in a simple and plain language without any technical jargons so that every stakeholders not just understand the problem but should be able to feel the pain point of the users. One pro tip here. While writing a problem statement, make sure to add the impact of the problem in our users' life as well as the impact in the business. Here is the problem statement of our example. During sign up, our new users are facing difficulties while creating the password, and that is majorly because of the password policy we have. As a result of this, our users are not able to sign up for the services and we are losing the revenue opportunity. One method which I use to write problem statement is called 5W writing method. The 5 W's are who, what, when, where, and why. In this writing method, you answer questions corresponding to these words and draft a statement. Specifically, for writing problem statement for UX, the question can be who is facing the problem, what is the problem, when does the problem appears, where does the problem appears, why does the problem exist. Your problem statement is properly defined if the statement answers all these 5 questions. In the example of problem statement I shared earlier, here is how I answered all these questions. This defines who is facing the problem. This defines what is the problem. This defines when does the problem appears. This defines where does the problem appears. And this defines why does the problem exist. Some of the other tools we use in this stage are personas, empathy mapping, user journey mapping, etc. If you want a video on these tools, please say yes tools in the comments and I will create a video soon. Step 4. Ideate. With a clear definition of the problem, now it is time to ideation, where we jump into finding the solution. However, please remember, we haven't touched the design tool yet, and neither we are going to use it in this step as well. One important lesson for all those aspirants who jump into learning the tool first, remember, tool come last in the design process, and therefore, please learn the foundation first and then the tools. Okay, let's come back to our ideation stage. So the goal in this step is to come up with as many solutions as possible and then to choose the best solution to take forward for the next step. This step is further divided into 2 parts. Part 1, divergent. While in divergent stage, we focus on getting as many ideas as possible, going beyond the scope of the area. Some of the method we use are brainstorming, crazy eights, mind mapping, how might we, etc. Part 2, convergent. This is opposite of divergent, where the focus is to trim down as many solutions as possible to select the best 2 or 3 solutions based on the combined agreement of the team. The most popular method to select the best solution is dot voting. Dot voting is a democratic method where the team members vote for their favorite solution and the solution with maximum votes is taken forward for the next step. Again, if you want a video on these tools and methods, say yes tools in the comments. For our example of dropping in sign up, we can come up with solutions such as solution number 1, allow user to set weaker password. Solution number 2, allow users to set weaker password but enable 2-factor authentication. Solution number 3, use social media sign up such as sign up with Facebook, Google or Apple. Solution number 4, remove password and allow login using OTP, one-time password in email. Solution number 5, remove password and login using magic link sent in emails. Once we get this solution as a result of divergent thinking, the entire team can now choose the best solution out of this available solution using the dot voting methods. Let's say the team voted for solution number 1 and solution number 3. Now this solution will be taken forward to our next step, which is prototype. Step 5, prototype. A prototype is an early sample, model or release of a product or feature built to test a concept. This is not to be confused with UI prototype feature which we use in Figma and other design tools. Prototype are not the final product or feature. Instead, it is a working model of the proposed solution which helps in validating the effectiveness of the solution without utilizing much of the time and resources. Example, instead of spending time in creating a polished UI of the proposed solution, we can quickly create a paper prototype using paper cuts or just a rough wireframe. One most important thing to remember while creating a prototype is to make sure that the prototype you have created have just enough details in it that the user can easily understand the solution being proposed. If the details are less, the user might not be able to understand the solution. And if the details are too much, you're wasting time on the solution which is not yet validated and may not work for the users. Hence, you will need to make sure that the prototype is perfectly balanced. The primary reason of creating a prototype is to validate the proposed solution with the users and to get early feedbacks so that we can iterate and create a better version of the solution or to drop the solution if it doesn't work. Some of the most common methods are wireframing, Wizard of Oz, paper prototype, etc. For our example, as you remember, the team voted for solution number 1 and solution number 3. So in this step, we will need to quickly create the wireframe version of solutions. When we say wireframe version, we generally means the grayscale UI, also known as low fidelity design. The reason behind creating the first version in grayscale is to get the focus of the users on the solution rather than on the look and feel of the interface. Next, we'll get this wireframe version tested with our users. Step 6. Testing. Once the prototype of the proposed solution is created, we will need to test this prototype with our actual users to validate if it solves their problem. This step also comes under the purview of research, and accordingly, we will need to follow the research process mentioned earlier in our research section. We will need to follow all the steps except step number 1 and 2. At this stage, we can directly start with step number 3, that is formulation of research plan, where the researcher will create a detailed plan on how to validate the solution created, what method to use, how to identify and recruit research participants, date and type of the research, etc. Then we will need to move to step number 4, that is conduct the research. Then step 5, data analysis and interpretation. And lastly, step 6, drawing conclusions. I hope it is making sense. Please rewatch the research section again to get more clarity on each of these steps. One of the most commonly used method to validate the solution is usability testing, where we present the prototype created in step number 5 to our participant users and ask them to complete the targeted task. For our example, the targeted task is to sign up. You see the importance of usability testing? It is being used in finding the problem at the initial stage, and now it is being used to validate the solution. Next is the bonus step. This particular step is what makes the process a design process. There is one important thing which is at the core of any design process, and that thing is iterative nature of the process. And this step is all about understanding this iterative nature. Iterative or iterative means doing something again and again with the goal to improve the product or services. By the way, did you notice something here from step number 2 to step number 6? If you have watched my video on the difference between UX and design thinking, you could have guessed by now that this part is exactly same as design thinking. So that means in this video, you are not just learning the UX design process, but you have also learned the design thinking. All right, let's come back to the iterative nature of the process. Iterative in terms of design means the flexibility of going back and forth between the steps or repeating the entire process again to improve the proposed solution. Let's understand this with our example of drop-in sign-up. So in step 4, if you remember, we finalized 2 solutions, and accordingly in step 5 we created the wireframe version of the solution. Now this wireframe version will go through the test, and there will be 2 outcomes of the test. Either it will fail or it will pass. If it fails, we will need to jump back to the research and reinitiate step 2 to step 6 again. If it passes the initial test, then also we will need to go back to our previous step, which is prototype, to create the high fidelity or the polished user interface of the solution. Once the UI is ready, we will again test the same with our users, get their feedback, and back to prototype step to modify our design based on the user feedback. And this will continue until we reach a satisfactory level with the feedback. This is called the iteration of design. And I have seen design goes through this iteration for multiple times before it makes to the next step. Step 7. Build. This is where the solution turns into an actual product or feature. Once the solution is validated, the design team shares the design to the dev team, and the dev team convert them into lines of code. Wow, finally the work is completed. If you're thinking that the work of a designer is completed after handing it over to the developer, then my dear fellow designers, you are wrong. This is the start of another journey, where the designer shifts their role from creator to the validator. There are two primary tasks of a designer in this step. Task 1 is to give walkthrough of the experience created to the dev team and answer any concern or queries the developer might have. Task 2 is to validate the output created by the dev team to make sure that the output and the design matches. And if it does not match, the design team need to share precise feedback to the dev team to make the necessary corrections. The dev and design team have to work closely to make sure that the product is not only visually appealing but also functional and user-friendly. Communication and collaboration between the dev and the design team is the key to a success of any product launch. Step 8. Launch. After much of the work of designers and developers, finally, it's time to launch the solution. While the majority of the work is done by the marketing team here, but the designers need to support the marketing team with the knowledge about the users, the pain points of the users, and the benefit of the proposed solution, so that the marketing team can create a compelling and meaningful campaign for the product launch. Apart from providing the support, the designers can definitely celebrate the launch of their proposed solution. Believe me, it feels so good to see the solution you proposed being used by hundreds and thousands of different users. Step 9. Post-launch. Now, this is crucial. Okay, you celebrated the launch of your proposed solution, but now you will need to check whether or not the proposed solution works for the larger audience, because in step number 6, you have tested the solution with the sample users, and this does not represent the entire audience. Therefore, it is important to understand how the larger audience are perceiving the value of the solution. Some of the important metrics to track are: 1. How many users have used the features? 2. How satisfied are users with the solution? 3. How likely are users to recommend the solution to others? 4. How many support tickets and inquiries have been raised related to the features? These metrics can help measure the success and adoption of the solution among the larger audience and can provide valuable insight for further improvements or adjustments. And if the solution does not work for the larger audience, we will need to re-evaluate the problem and find a more comprehensive solution. This could involve gathering more data, consulting expert, or testing different approaches. With that, we completed the entire process. If you want to learn more about UX design, you can check out my channel where I post videos about UX design principles, tips and tricks, and tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.